Hi guys, welcome back to the DrCliffAuD vlog. This is vlog number 77, and I kind of wish this was vlog number 76 because today is Independence Day, the 4th of July in the United States of America, and in 1776 is when Independence Day, or is actually when the United States got their independence. And last week's vlog was number 76, and that was a horrible vlog, so I should have just waited until this week, and then it would have made a little bit more sense. That being said, the things that I want to talk about today are first, to protect your hearing, please, because on the 4th of July, in the days leading up to it, and maybe even a few days past the 4th of July, individuals in the United States like to set off fireworks and firecrackers, things of that nature, things that are extremely noisy and things that can damage your hearing. So if you're going to be playing with fireworks and firecrackers, please make sure to use hearing protection, whether it's the foam insert protection, whether it's the over-the-ear earmuff protection, whatever you have to do, just protect yourself, because the easiest way to treat your hearing loss is to not give yourself a hearing loss in the first place. And noise exposure is one of those things that can be prevented in terms of preventing yourself from getting hearing loss, when a lot of other things like age-related hearing loss, there's nothing you can do unless you stop aging, and that's never good. So make sure you're protecting your hearing. That is my public service announcement. If you want to see me set off a bunch of firecrackers and things like that, watch last year's vlog on the 4th of July or right around the 4th of July. Okay, so the other thing that I want to talk to you about is our week. This past week, it was actually a really exciting week, and you know, this being 4th of July weekend, I'm not dressed up for you guys. I don't have my spiky hair or anything like that, but we had a really big week because this was the week that we completed our Lyric certification. Now, if you are unfamiliar with what Lyric is, essentially it's an invisible extended wear hearing aid that we personally place deep inside of your ear canal. It stays there for 2 months at a time, only to have you come back into the clinic every 2 months to have us exchange the hearing devices out. So basically, it's kind of like getting your regular hearing back in the sense that you don't have to do anything with it. You just kind of go and live your life. You get 24/7 hearing. Really, really cool concept. And this past week in particular, we completed all of our training. So we had done a variety of different training modules, both virtually and in person. And then this last week was our actual fitting day, where we scheduled 8 of our existing patients to come in to basically act as test subjects, so to speak. And some of those individuals were legitimately interested in using Lyric long term. But we had these individuals come in, and then we had our trainers there who kind of observed us and gave us some pointers, things like that, as we completed our certification. So both myself and Dr. Bryce Altus at Applied Hearing Solutions, we are now Lyric certified. So it was a really exciting day. I mean, inside of my office, and I'll probably show you guys some footage of this. If not in this vlog, I'll show it to you in a different vlog or a different video when I'm reviewing the Lyric hearing aids. But we had 8 individuals come in. 4 of them I took the lead on. 4 of them Dr. Bryce Altus took the lead on, and it actually went really well. The success rate, roughly speaking, from being able to physically use Lyric is about 75% of individuals can actually use Lyric. So you would expect out of 8 individuals for 2 of those individuals to not be able to be fit with the Lyric hearing aids. But we were fortunate, and all 8 of the individuals that we had come in were successfully fit with those devices. Now, we don't know ultimately if they are definitely going to have success with this particular type of hearing aid, but right now things are looking pretty good. So we're going to have them come back in a week from now, where we're basically going to assess how well they did with these particular devices over the course of the last week. Every single one of them has had some kind of experience with hearing treatment before. None of them are just fresh, never been treated or anything like that. So they have something to compare with. So that's something that we're particularly interested in. Some of them previously have been doing fantastic with, digitally programmable, either behind the ear or in the ear hearing aids. Some of them not so well, which is the reason that we're transitioning them over to Lyric. So it's going to be really interesting to kind of see the perspectives of different individuals with different levels of success with their particular Lyric devices. The one kind of tricky thing that we ran into this past week was this aspect of we only had a certain amount of Lyric devices in the office that we were fitting. Typically, you expect to have a spread of different, extra small, extra small, small, medium large, extra large. But we had a lot of individuals who found themselves on the extra small and extra small size devices that we placed inside of their ears. So it was like, oh my gosh, are we even going to be able to fit every single one of the patients this week? And we lucked out. So we used every single one of our extra small lyric devices. We used all but one extra small, and then we used almost all of our smalls as well. So it was a very, tricky time. I'm actually surprised that Phonak didn't send us more of the smaller devices for this day that they knew that we were going to be fitting a bunch of patients with. But is what it is. We ended up getting lucky. Now we just have to wait and see how these individuals are doing. The interesting thing about it is, so let me give you kind of an idea of how a lyric fitting goes. So initially when someone comes in and we make sure that they're a candidate, so they're not someone who skydives all the time, they're not someone who snorkels or submerge head swims in the water or does diving like scuba diving, things like that, and then they're not getting MRIs extremely regularly. Those right there are things that you cannot do with the lyric hearing aids. But if you've had radiation on the head or neck area, you have certain types of conditions that would prevent you from being able to use lyric, that we would basically say, nope, you are not a lyric candidate at all. And I will list those things in the description of this video that make you not a candidate for lyric. But otherwise, if they are a candidate audiologically, so their thresholds fall within the range that can be actually aided by a lyric hearing aid, then we can actually progress through the process of fitting them with a lyric hearing device. And so basically the first thing that we do is we take a depth measurement tool, and it has a very like pointy but very flimsy and delicate tip on the end of this tool that's about that long, and we gently place it inside of their ear canal, and we gently tap it with our thumb until the point where that tip touches their eardrum, and they hear kind of almost like a thumping, like someone's tapping on a microphone. And then that tells us how deep their ear canal is, and then we pull it back out. We do it again because measure twice, cut once, and we verify the depth of their ear canal. And that depth correlates with a millimeter sizing system, so we know to set the rest of our tools up to where we're inserting that lyric device only 4 millimeters away from their eardrum. So to make sure that we don't push into the eardrum, anything like that, we need to know the exact depth of someone's ear canal. So once we identify that they do actually have at least a 4 millimeter measurements essentially on this tool that we're using, then we know that we can actually fit it inside of their ear canal. But once we identify that, then we need to get the sizing of the actual device. So really the diameter of the lyric device. And like I said, we have 7 different sizes. So it goes from extra small to extra small, small, medium, large, extra large, and extra large. So if my math is correct, that should be 7 sizes of devices. And so we always want to measure 2. So we typically look at their ear canal and just based off of gut feel of, okay, that I think is going to end up being a medium or something like that. We'll start with 1. We will insert it. So we'll set up the depth measurement tool the insertion tool at the proper depth. And so we'll attach this sizer on the end of this tool. We will insert it into the patient's ear canal to that particular depth. They typically feel pressure as we're pushing it in, and if they feel discomfort, that's when we basically want to stop and then potentially pull the device back out of their ear. But in most cases, we can insert it, they feel a little bit of a pressure, but as soon as we release it at the depth it's supposed to be at, generally that pressure goes away and it's like, okay, so I feel like I'm wearing an earplug. Because remember, this particular device is just a sizing tool. It's not an active hearing aid. So we're putting this into their ear and it's actually making their hearing worse while they have it in there. And but typically it's very comfortable deep inside of the ear canal. It has a very spongy kind of like outer casing to this hearing aid. So when you put it in someone's ear canal, it generally is very, very comfortable. If it's not, then that's something that we have to address. And every single time we insert or remove an actual device, we have to check the ear canal. The ear canal has to be really clean, so there can't be a whole lot or any earwax inside of the ear canal. It's something to where when we're pushing in these dummy devices to get the sizing right, when we pull it back out, we have to look in again to make sure that we didn't cause any damage inside of the ear canal. In general, we have to be very gentle when we're placing this. I will admit that I go a little bit quicker than what Dr. Altis goes. He's a much more gentle individual when it comes to placement, but I like to say that my insertion is more of a controlled, but I'm not just taking my time. I'm like, I'm going to get it into place. I'm going to be steady, but not like super slow. We each have our own different styles of inserting lyric into someone's ear canal, but none of the individuals reported any kind of pain today, which is fantastic. And so nonetheless, getting back to the sizing side, so once we identify, okay, this size, it looks good, but you know what, let's try another one, and based on a couple of variables, maybe we'd go up in a size, maybe we would go one size lower, and we would test that. And once we have kind of two different comparisons, we can generally say, okay, this one is clearly the better size. And so then we annotate that. We annotate the depth that we were able to insert it to, because sometimes you can't insert it all the way to the measured depth that you want to get to, and sometimes you can even go a little bit further based on different variables that you see when you're doing the insertion. So we annotate the depth that we got to, and we annotate the size of device that we could fit in that ear. Then of course we go to the other side, do the other ear, come up with that depth measurement, come up with that size measurement, and then essentially we're ready to go. So we identify those, we go and we grab the live devices, and we enter all of this into our programming software. We come up with the initial programming of these devices. We load that programming using a programming wand, because these are technically digitally programmable analog hearing aids. To not get into too much detail here, we can essentially make some programming changes to them and upload those changes digitally into the hearing aids, but it is an analog hearing aid. It is not digitally converting sound and amplifying sound. It is amplifying sound, but in an analog manner, which is why a lot of people report that the clarity of lyric is a lot better than their digital hearing aids. But once we enter all of their Audiologic data, which is already in the system, when we upload this programming to the lyric devices, we then program it and we insert it into their ear canal to the verified measured depth that we got with the sizing tool, and making sure that the positioning inside of the ear canal is nice and even. We have good compression all the way around that little spongy yellow material inside of the ear canal, and that we have no gaps or anything like that. And there's typically a little bit of a feedback sound or whistling sound as we're inserting it into someone's ear canal, because there is a little bit of feedback kind of leaking out around as you're pushing it in. But once you get it into place and you release it, that feedback largely goes away. I think we only had maybe 1 or 2 cases where after we inserted one into someone's ear canal, they reported that it was feeding back on them. And so we had to pull it out, determine what to do, whether we went up in a size or whether we just repositioned it. But nonetheless, the individuals that we had issues with, obviously, we got sorted out. So once we get it into place, it's kind of like, okay, let's evaluate. Perception of volume is something we want to evaluate. Perception of balance between left and right ears is something we want to evaluate. Just the general quality of how they're hearing, meaning their own voice, meaning someone who's more of a high-pitched voice talking to them. So kind of gauging just right there in the office first day, how someone is perceiving sound might dictate that we make some changes in the programming, which we ultimately did end up having to do with just a few of the individuals that we fit. Now, again, a lot of these individuals, in fact, all of them had some prior experience with hearing aids, so a lot of them were more articulate in their ability to kind of define how things sounded based on their previous experience, which again helped us out a lot. But really at the end of the day, it made for a really successful final training / approval day for us to be able to start dispensing lyric. Now, a couple other things that we went over with these patients is that they can technically remove these devices from their ears if they get discomfort or something happens, like they jump in a pool, they forgot they were wearing it, it ends up killing one of the devices, and so instead of leaving it in their ear canal and making it sound more like an earplug, they can actually use this little tool, go into their ear, loop it around the loop that's inside of their ear, and kind of extract it on their own. Something that we don't necessarily think that many people will do or do very often, but just in case, that's what they have the tool for. That tool also has a little magnet on it that they can place inside of their ear and put their device into sleep mode. And then they can also put it into their ear and cycle through different volume adjustments, either to go up in volume or down in volume with their Lyric devices. We also sent them home with a card that has their Lyric number. So if they happen to be in a different state and they can't come in and see us to exchange Lyric devices, they still have access to other Lyric clinics around the country because everything's stored up in the cloud. You could go somewhere else and they could fit you to the same depth and with the same size device that they have in stock at their clinic. So it's a really nice feature for individuals who are Lyric hearing aid users. Of course, they also got a user manual. They got a little packet to kind of put their removed devices in if they did have to remove them so they can bring them back in for us to evaluate. But other than that, I mean, that's pretty much it. It was a pretty simple, straightforward fitting process today, and I'll be very interested to see how these individuals fared in their first week, going over a long holiday weekend, probably a lot of them going to be seeing family and things of that nature. So the feedback from this should be really interesting. And if you know me, you know I'm going to be sharing that feedback with you guys. But that is our week this week. It was a really, really exciting week. It was kind of fun to have all this done. It was fun to have so many people in one room. I think at any given time we had 8 people inside of a single room. The rooms actually had enough space to where it didn't really feel cramped as long as people were kind of along the outsides, but it was a very unique experience for all the individuals that we fit. I called them all kind of like zoo animals in a way, because like everybody's got their eyes on them and they're just kind of, you know, sitting there just waiting to be fit. So it was really interesting, but I think it was also a lot of fun too. I mean, I have a lot of really awesome patients that we got to have some fun with today as well. So it was really, or this past week as well. So it was a really, really fun week for us at the clinic. But all that being said, that is all that I have for you today, guys. Again, remember, protect your hearing if you're going to be shooting off firecrackers, fireworks, things like that. If you're using sparklers, you don't have to use hearing protection, okay? You have my permission to light a sparkler without protecting your hearing. But as always, make sure that you give me a thumbs up on this video. It really helps out the channel. It helps these videos get put in front of more and more individuals. And as always, guys, I will see you next week.